the Lord require of you, but to do justly, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with your God.
To do justly. By the way, as far as the community thing goes here, Peter's not going to be able to read what's on the board. You're going to need it to help him here. To do justly. The out reaches to people. The out makes a difference in people's lives. And the out is where we experience probably our greatest fear. Right? Let's all get together and have a meal. Not a whole lot of fear in that, right? Let's all get together and we're gonna pray, and everybody's gonna pray silently. There's not a lot of fear in that. Let's all meet on Saturday morning and we're gonna go knock on 175 doors. Fear. You know? Now, you might do it enough that you get to the point that, okay, I can deal with that. That's okay. Why? Because you've learned the out. The more we learn the out, the more comfortable we are, because we know it's not about us doing something, but it's about us carrying out the mission that pleases God. We find strength in the community that we have with the in, and it motivates us to the out. But again, the out also is dependent solely on the up relationship as well. We can't pull these apart. The lines just go all over the place, and they have to stay connected for the triangle to work. Jesus said, "Follow me, and I will make you fishers." And so we have to learn how to share what Jesus has given to us. Peter says, "Be ready always to give an answer of the faith that is in you." We need to be ready to share. The out, though, is something that is important for us to have balance. If we're doing the up, if we're developing the in, and we don't do the out, we're a two-legged stool, and when we sit on it, we're going to fall. On the other hand, if we omit the in because we're busy doing the up and the out, but we never have community with each other, we're going to fall. Omit any one of the three, and we're in trouble. We need all three of them for our own balance. It kind of goes back, and really, when you see God working, He really does work in a lot of threes. Body, soul, and spirit. And He deals with us with the in, the up, and the out. And He deals with those relationships. What I want you to do is, I want you this week to be thinking about the triangle. And I want you to think, where am I strong and where am I struggling? Where am I good at and where am I not naturally good at? And if I'm not naturally good at it, I can't say, let me just tell you this. We can't say to God, I'm not naturally good at that, so I'm excused. No, I can find a way to be involved in all of these because God will develop me. If you're weak in an area, that's where the up with our walk with God and the in will strengthen you if the out's the problem. If you're struggling with the in, well, just jump in. If you're struggling with the up, maybe get it with the in, and then people will help you with the up. That sounds like so much puzzle. But you all know what I'm saying, right? The out is very important. Now, let me ask you this. When you look at this and you evaluate yourself, don't anybody say, because it's not public. Is there an area that you would look at and say, I've gotten kind of weak in that area, or I've missed out on that? And if there is, then you will be able to exercise the up and ask God to help you please Him and focus on that. And as you have accountability engaged in that relationship, you can find that other people have probably had the same struggle at some point in time in all three of these. And you'll find that people are not going to be condemning of you. But to step up and say, well, I'm really weak in this one. You probably have somebody in your group go, why not? You aren't by yourself. I'm here with you. Let me tell you what happened to me. This is why we need all of these things. Now, let's evaluate this a little bigger for tonight. There are some combinations that can happen in church life when it comes to the up, the in, and the out. A church that is going to function properly is going to have all three. to think about it. 'Cause I asked Donna this question this afternoon, and I'd already done it for myself. Are we balanced? Or do we have a leg of the stool that needs to be operated on? I think about that. In your personal life, is there an area that, in church life, that we could say, and we've emphasized this and we've emphasized that, and maybe we haven't emphasized the third one, whatever the third one might be. And if we're balanced, we have applied ourselves to have all three. And we can, we should. And I think this becomes an evaluating tool for me to look at my personal walk with God and for our church relationship to develop it. Now, I think that the biggest challenge for us, and I'll just say it, and I'm going to be the one who says it, is the out. Not maybe for you on a personal level, but the corporate level. Kind of, we do it, and it backs up. We do it, and it backs up. I mean, we've gone out and passed out all kinds of flyers. We've done that. And before anybody thinks I'm pointing the finger at any of you, the finger that's being pointed at is being pointed at me. As the preacher, it's my responsibility to say that. But I'm telling you that so that you can, in community and accountability, we can all join together and say, you know, we can do more with that. It can be done privately, should be, but it needs to be a continuous emphasis where all of us have all three of these. A church that is up and in will focus a lot of attention on worship, and they'll focus a lot of attention on study groups and small groups. A church that is an up and an out will focus a lot of attention on worship and a lot of attention on outreach programs, but the people inside are simply being told to do things. The church that is in and out will focus a lot on each other and try to do a lot of programs, but will miss out on God in the big picture. Churches that are in and out will typically, you can classify them like this. They're big on getting community together, but the out is usually some kind of program like AA, or it's some kind of self-help program, because they're concentrating on people and they're concentrating on people. There's nothing wrong with AA. You know, I'm not dissing it. But the fact is, move. The fact is, pardon me that I had to do that. The fact is that we still need the up. The church that's up and in won't be reaching out to the community. And the church that's up and out will focus on a lot of worship, but the people are left stagnant in and of themselves. Boom. So, what we need to do is use something like the triangle to not only see where I'm supposed to go, but it helps me evaluate myself. So I need evaluating tools. I need to know. I have a hard time, and I'll just say, I have a hard time with a lot of what they do in kids' sports today. Well, we don't want anyone to lose and feel bad. I'm going to tell you, every parent sitting in the stands is keeping score whether they got a scoreboard or not. We're up 3-2. Go kids, go! Yeah, we're supporting the team. We're just really community. We won. Am I wrong? Or am I right? Austin says, no, you're not wrong. We keep score. And when I keep score, I evaluate myself. I think it's good for us to be able to evaluate ourselves. So for me, when I'm presenting the triangle to you, I'm saying not only is it a motivator, but it's an evaluator. It's a tool in our hands. So I want us to be able to use that and develop ourselves and become more of what God wants us to be. Questions? Thoughts about out or about the triangle?
It makes me think of an illustration that we saw one time. Years ago, a missionary came by. It's when we were in Illinois, and he did. I don't remember the exact title of his sermon or anything, but he did an illustration with a loaf of bread that he went by each pew and handed out pieces of bread to people, like halfway back in the auditorium, halfway. came back up and was preaching as he was doing this, giving all these people bread. So the second half of the people didn't get any bread. But the first half, he went back and gave them more bread. And his illustration when he was through was that this is what happens when you are coming to church, you're learning, you're growing, you keep coming back, you keep getting more. But look at all these people back here who aren't getting anything because you're not taking what you're getting and sharing it. You know, it was very powerful in that respect because it gave you an idea of the fact that that is what happens a lot of time, is that we come to church, we go to Bible studies, we read in it, which we need. We all need that. But if we're not then taking it and doing something with it by sharing it or by giving it to someone else, then all we're doing is just getting fatter and fatter with that, what we're, taking in and not giving it out. So I thought of that.
That's good, though.
With it.
I hadn't remembered that illustration
That
until
was
you
a,
started.
that's a good illustration, though.
Yeah. So I just, I know that happens way too much in our Christian walk, that we're not using what we're learning and we're not taking it to other people the way God intended.
Could I add something about the out that I think is important? In Christianity, we almost have this unspoken scorecard. If we're going to practice out, well, how many souls got saved for you? How many notches on the belt do you have? I do want you to know that there is an out where you may not see a result, and only heaven will reveal it. But it was an out. There is an out where people are hurting and grieving, and before you can tell them about Jesus, you need to comfort them. That's out. That's legitimate. I really believe that sometimes what people need, before they'll listen to us talk about who Jesus is and what he's done, they need to just hear that we care about him for a minute. That is an out, and there's no scorecard there. There's no way that you can grade that and rate that. It's impossible. And yet, it may have been the most powerful thing. And that person might not become a Christian through you talking to them. But they may go days, weeks, or months down the road, and some other Christian approaches them and they think, I really need to listen because that person back there, you, cared enough to listen to them and care about them in their crisis. So I think that, I just thought it was good that I should add that. Anybody else? I'm going to read you a true story. Danny Wallace was between jobs, having recently left a position as a producer for the BBC television in London. And during this between jobs time, he learned his great-uncle, Galus Breitenmoser, had passed away at the age of 90. Danny went to Switzerland for the funeral, and while there, heard about the crazy idea that his great-uncle had pursued. Following World War II, Galus had grown tired of living in his city, where there was much gossip and slandering, and wanted to do life with others who would work and live together out of respect for one another. He owned some land, so he decided to start a community farm, hoping to attract 100 others to live with him. He got only 3. After a week, he gave up. But for the rest of his life, his family talked about Galus and his crazy idea. And they were still laughing at his funeral. This was the first Danny had heard of his great-uncle's quest for community. And the more he thought about it, the more Danny wanted to see if he could collect people together today. In tribute to Galus, Danny placed a small ad in a small London newspaper, and it read, "Join me. Send 1 passport-sized photo to," and he gave his address. A few days later, Danny received a letter from Christian Jones, who included a photo of himself, as well as a menu from an Indian restaurant in his part of London. Danny had his first joinee. He put up a website, and in short time had 101 joinees, surpassing his great-uncle's goal. Why did people join? There were no meetings planned. There were no tasks to accomplish. But people were just being asked to send in a photo. That's it. Within weeks, he had more than 100 people who had done so. They signed up for a group for no other reason than just to join. Danny was astounded and a bit put out. His joinees now expected him to give meaning to this community, but it had no purpose. until Danny came up with one. He sent an email